I want you to think back to maybe this morning or like yesterday afternoon. You know the exact moment I'm talking about.
Oh, I bet they do.
Right. You were sitting at your desk. You're juggling, I don't know, 3 different deadlines that are all technically labeled high priority. And then, ding, a Slack notification pops up.
Or somebody just physically stops by your desk.
Yeah, exactly. And they ask for a favor, just a quick thing, they say. And I want you to ask yourself, when was the exact last time you said yes to that request, knowing deep down, like right in the pit of your stomach, that something else you were already working on was going to suffer because of it?
Ugh. It's that horrible sinking feeling. I mean, the word yes comes out of your mouth, but your brain is just flashing this giant red warning light.
Totally. You say yes, they walk away happy, and you're left instantly regretting it. We have all been there.
Yeah.
And the really fascinating part is the story we tell ourselves right after it happens to justify it.
Right. The rationalization.
Yeah. Yes. We convince ourselves that we're just being generous. We think, well, they needed help, and I am the kind of person who helped. I'm a team player.
It is a profoundly universal experience, especially for high performers. But what we often fail to realize in that split second is the actual collateral damage of that so-called generosity.
Exactly. And that is what we are tearing apart today. We are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating new article from the Phoenix Performance Partners. It's titled, Boundaries Aren't Walls.
It's such a great piece.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to completely rewire how you think about setting limits. We are going to deconstruct this whole myth that saying yes to everything makes you this incredibly generous, indispensable colleague.
Because the reality is, true boundaries are not about building a fortress around yourself to keep people out. I mean, that is how they are usually framed in pop psychology, right? As this ultimate act of self-care where you just aggressively guard your time.
Like, don't talk to me, I'm protecting my peace.
Exactly, yeah. But when you look at how high-functioning teams actually operate, a boundary is simply about making sure your yes actually means something.
So let's dig into the mechanics of that, because the opening premise here completely flipped my perspective. The idea is that an overcommitted yes might feel like serving, but it's actually just a promise to quietly underdeliver.
Yeah.
I have to admit, reading that stung a little bit.
It stings because it directly challenges a core assumption we hold about workplace virtue. I mean, we associate yes with goodness.
Definitely.
But let's look at the actual physics of human capacity. When someone comes to you with a request and you are already at maximum capacity, looking them in the eye and saying no creates friction.
It's awkward.
It's very awkward. It is immediate temporary discomfort. You have to disappoint them to their face. So saying yes allows you to entirely avoid that momentary friction.
Oh, wow. So in that moment, I'm not actually being generous to them. I'm just using an escape hatch to avoid my own discomfort.
Precisely. It is basically an anxiety management tool for you. But think about the result for them or, for the people you're already working with.
The people who already have your time.
Right. The colleague who genuinely needed your real, focused, creative attention on a project. Because you avoided the discomfort of saying no to this new thing, everyone is now getting a highly distracted, stressed out, fragmented version of you.
So you end up serving everyone a little bit and serving absolutely no one well.
Exactly.
Okay, I hear that, but let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Let's say a junior team member genuinely needs help with a project. Like, they are floundering, and you turn them away to protect your own deep work time. Isn't that fundamentally a bit selfish?
I get that.
I mean, it feels like abandoning them, which seems like the exact opposite of being a good steward of your team.
And that is the exact trap that keeps us chronically overcommitted. If we view a boundary purely as an act of self-protection, like, I need my me time, then yeah, in a team environment, it can absolutely feel selfish. But the radical reframe here is that a boundary is not self-protection. A boundary is stewardship.
Stewardship. Okay, meaning managing the resources and commitments you've already been entrusted with.
Exactly. Think about the commitments you have already made. The core projects, the clients, the team members who are relying on your focus and your energy to get their own jobs done.
Yeah.
Saying a clear no to a new one-off request is literally the only mechanism you have to protect your real yes to the things you have already promised to serve.
So pretending that my time, focus, and energy are just infinite resources doesn't actually help anyone.
It actively shortchanges them. If you say yes to joining some random new committee when your plate is already completely full, You are quietly saying to your direct reports, I am going to be 10% worse at reviewing your critical work this week.
Oh, man, that is harsh.
But don't say that out loud, of course, but that is the mechanical reality of how time works.
That makes so much sense when you frame it around the people who already have your yes. It's not me against the person asking, it's me protecting the work of the team I'm already committed to.
Exactly.
But that raises a massive question. The person asking for help is still standing there waiting for an answer.
Yes, they are.
And we still don't want to be a jerk to them. So how do we actually handle that interaction?
This brings us to what I think is probably the most profound concept we're looking at today. It requires us to completely shift the emotional foundation of how we deliver a boundary.
Okay.
To explain this, we have to look at the concept of agape love.
Okay, wait, stop right there. Agape love. That is not a phrase you typically hear tossed around in a Tuesday morning stand-up meeting.
Not usually, no.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly philosophical, maybe even theological. How does that fit into corporate America?
I know it sounds a bit heavy for the corporate world, but the application is incredibly practical. So agape is often defined as a love that gives itself for the good of the other. It is completely outward-facing. It is not about romance or affection. In a professional context, it translates to deep, unwavering respect for your colleagues and their work.
Respect for their work.
Right. It is about wanting what is genuinely best for the other person's project, regardless of how awkward it makes you feel in the short term.
Oh, I see. So wanting their project to succeed so badly that you refuse to half-ass your contribution to it.
Exactly. Agape love actually requires boundaries. Because if you truly want what is best for the other person, you cannot hand them an exhausted, resentful 11th hour version of your work. You have to be honest with them about your capacity.
So there's a massive difference between being nice and being kind in this context. And I think this is where so many workplace cultures get extremely toxic without even realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. It is a critical distinction that trips up so many leaders. Being nice is often entirely about managing your own anxiety.
Right, just keeping the peace.
Yes. It is saying whatever needs to be said to keep the interaction smooth and conflict-free in the present moment. Overpromising is nice. Smiling and taking on a project you know you will inevitably delay, that's nice.
But being kind means making a genuine contribution to the other person, even when it is the harder thing to do.
Yes. Telling the truth about your capacity is kind. Telling a colleague, this initiative deserves dedicated focus and I cannot give it that right now, is an act of professional kindness.
Okay, so let's say I've bought in. I psych myself up. I'm ready to be kind, not just nice. I'm ready to set the boundary and tell the truth.
Awesome.
But there's a major pitfall here. The article points out that the words you use to say no are actually only half the boundary.
They are the easy half, to be honest. You can just script the words.
Right. The other half, the part that actually dictates how this boundary lands with your colleague, is the emotion underneath it, the nonverbals. Because if I set a boundary from a place of fear or stress or resentment, like if I snap and say, I absolutely cannot take on one more thing right now, it sounds like a literal wall.
It comes out with an edge in your voice. Your shoulders are tense. It feels like a door slamming shut in their face.
Totally.
And human beings are incredibly adept at reading subtext. When a door slams, people feel the resentment radiating off of you long before their cognitive brain ever processes the actual vocabulary you are using.
Their biological response is to brace against you. You know, it's like
Sure.
handing someone a fragile package.
I like that.
The words you're saying, the actual sentence, is what's inside the box. But the emotion, the nonverbals, that's how you deliver it.
Yeah.
If you throw the box at their head out of pure frustration, they aren't going to care about the perfectly drafted, polite corporate message inside the box.
No, not at all.
They're just going to put their hands up and brace for impact.
That is a perfect analogy. The words inside the box could be vetted by HR, perfectly polite. But if you throw it, all they register is the attack. Now, contrast that with setting the exact same boundary, declining the exact same project, but doing it from a place of that agape respect we talked about.
What does that actually sound like in the room?
It sounds calm, it sounds collaborative, it sounds like, I really want to give your project my real attention, so here is what I can honestly commit to.
Wow. It's the exact same boundary.
Yeah.
You are still looking at them and saying no to doing the work right now,
Yeah.
but the energy is entirely different.
Completely different because it reads as respect for their work, not a rejection of them as a person. You are fundamentally saying, your work is too important for me to mess it up by squeezing it in.
That's huge.
The transcript of those two interactions might look incredibly similar, but the emotional attitude beneath them changes everything. And here's the thing. The only reliable way to change your nonverbals is to literally change where you are coming from internally. You cannot fake a gape.
Right. If you are secretly seething at them for even having the audacity to ask you for help, your face will betray you.
Oh, absolutely.
Your tone will tell on you. Which leads me to a very practical question. If delivering a boundary with the right emotion is so critical to maintaining good relationships, why do we mess it up so consistently? Like, why is it so hard in the moment?
Well, because in that specific moment of pressure, when the request is made, we are rarely choosing our response consciously.
We just react.
Exactly. Before our rational brain even realizes what is happening, our unconscious defaults take over. We all have ingrained strategies for handling pressure, and they dictate how we handle or entirely avoid boundaries.
Yes, the 4 unconscious defaults. I want to spend some real time here because I guarantee every single person listening is going to recognize themselves or, their boss in at least one of these.
Oh, for sure. Let's look at the first default, connection. If your primary unconscious strategy is connection, your instinct under pressure is to overgive. You deeply value the relationship, you want to be liked, and you just want to smooth things over at all costs.
So this is the person who accidentally volunteers to run the department bake sale while they are actively drowning in quarterly compliance spreadsheets just because they panicked in the meeting and didn't want anyone to feel unsupported.
Exactly. For the connection default, setting a limit feels like severing a tie. The boundary just evaporates because the fear of the other person feeling disconnected from you overrides your logical knowledge of your own schedule.
Wow, yeah. Okay, what happens when someone swings to the complete opposite end of the spectrum?
That is the second default, control.
Control, right.
If this is your default, your instinct under pressure is to take charge and eliminate the threat. You actually don't have a problem setting a boundary, but because it comes from a need for control and fear of failure, it almost always lands as an aggressive ultimatum.
This is the box thrown at the head. It's the person who just barks, "Not my job, figure it out," and storms off.
Right, and it is highly effective at stopping the request in its tracks, but it leaves a massive wake of damaged relationships behind it.
Yeah, nobody wants to work with that guy.
Exactly. Then there is the third default, which is arguably the most insidious in a corporate environment, harmony.
The silent martyr.
Yes, exactly. The harmony default is driven by the instinct to keep the peace at all costs. You hate conflicts, so you just go quiet.
And just swallow it.
Yeah, you don't say the hard thing. You smile, you take on the extra work, but you let a deep, silent resentment build toward the person who asked you.
It's the tense Friday afternoon meeting where someone agrees to work the weekend, smiles on the Zoom call, and then just seethes in anger for the next 48 hours. You maintain the external peace, but internally, there is a war going on.
Precisely. It is toxic for the individual. And finally, the fourth default, accuracy.
Let me guess. Paralysis by analysis.
Spot on. Accuracy is the instinct to get it exactly perfectly right. If this is your default, you know you need to set a boundary, but you paralyze yourself trying to find the flawless way to deliver it.
You are drafting the Slack message in a separate Word document so you don't accidentally hit send before it's perfectly worded.
Yep. You wait for the perfect wording, the perfect timing, the perfect medium, the perfect mood from your boss. And as a result of waiting for perfection, you never actually end up speaking at all.
The moment just passes.
The moment passes and you just absorb the extra work.
So here is where I really need to push back.
Okay.
If these are deeply ingrained, unconscious strategies running the show, are we just trapped by them? I mean, for instance, if my default is accuracy, am I doomed to just draft perfect boundary-setting emails in my head until the end of time?
It is a valid fear, but the answer is an emphatic no. The most liberating thing to understand here is that these defaults are not character flaws.
Okay, good to know.
You are not broken because you overgive or because you get controlling. They are simply unconscious neurological strategies running on autopilot, and the magic happens the exact moment you name them.
Because naming the pattern brings it out of the mammalian reactive brain and up into the conscious, rational mind.
Exactly. Naming your default pattern is the very first step toward choosing your response on purpose. If you know you default to accuracy, when you feel that familiar urge to rewrite an email for the 5th time, you can catch yourself.
You can interrupt the cycle.
Yeah, you can literally say to yourself, there's my accuracy default acting up. I don't need this to be perfect. I just need it to be honest. Seeing your own pattern is the foundation of changing your behavior.
Okay, so we've done the internal work. We recognize our defaults. We understand that we need to approach this with an attitude of agape respecting their work enough to tell the truth.
Yes.
Now let's get tactical, because this is where the rubber meets the road. When I am standing face-to-face with a colleague, how do I actually construct this boundary in the real world?
The authors of the article outline a brilliant, incredibly simple three-part framework for setting a professional boundary from a place of respect.
Walk me through it.
Part 1. Name what you're protecting for their benefit.
Wait, for their benefit.
Yes, this ties everything right back to stewardship. You start the conversation by aligning yourself with their ultimate goals. For example, you say, I want this deliverable to be genuinely useful to your team. Or, I want to make sure your project gets the creative focus it deserves.
Wow, that is so disarming. Instantly, you are not adversaries fighting over calendar space. You are on the same side of the table looking at the project together.
Exactly. You are establishing that you care about the outcome just as much as they do. Once you've established that shared goal, you move to part 2. State the line clearly and specifically.
So this is where we avoid the vague, passive-aggressive hints.
Yes.
No saying, gosh, I'm just super swamped right now,
Yeah.
and hoping they get the hint and walk away.
Exactly. Hints are not boundaries. You have to be clear and specific. You say, because I want this to be useful to your team, I cannot take this on before Thursday without the quality of my current work slipping.
It is factual. It is completely devoid of high emotion. It's just, here's the reality of time and space.
Right.
And then we get to part 3, which I think is the tactical brilliance of this whole approach.
Part 3, offer what you can do.
Love this.
You never just drop a no and leave them empty-handed to figure it out alone. You say, I can start Thursday and have it to you by Monday. Or, if this is a massive urgency, let's look at what comes off my plate to make room for it.
I want to pause on that exact phrase. Let's look at what comes off my plate, because that is a masterful conversational pivot.
It really is.
But I have to ask about the power dynamics here. I mean, it is one thing to say that to a peer, but how does a junior employee say, let's look at what comes off my plate, to a VP or their direct manager without sounding, insubordinate?
It is all in the delivery and the framing. You aren't saying it as a challenge, like some kind of standoff.
Right.
You are framing it as a strategic allocation of company resources. If you are talking to your boss, you adjust the phrasing slightly. You say, I want to ensure the Q3 launch gets my full attention. I can absolutely take on this new audit today, but it means the launch prep pauses until Friday. Which of those is the highest priority for the business right now?
Oh, that is incredibly smart. It completely removed the personal conflict.
Yes.
It shifts the burden of prioritization back onto the shared goals of the company. It's no longer my stress versus your demand. It's us looking at the available hours in a work week and deciding together what actually matters most.
Because it forces the other person, even a senior leader, to acknowledge the reality of capacity. I mean, if everything is an urgent priority, then nothing is a priority.
Exactly.
By asking them to help you look at trade-offs, you invite them into reality.
And if we step back and look at this whole 3-part framework, name what you're protecting for their benefit, state the line clearly, offer what you can do, every single element is oriented towards serving the other person and the organization well.
That is the ultimate takeaway here. The boundary does not exist to build a wall around you so you can hide. The boundary exists entirely so your yes retains its value.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, heading into work tomorrow? The challenge is very specific, and we are going to pass it right along to you. This week, we want you to find an opportunity to set one professional boundary and communicate it respectfully using this framework.
Just one. Start small.
Just one. And when you do it, don't do it to guard yourself. Do it to protect your ability to keep showing up fully for the people you are already serving. Because sometimes the absolute most generous word a colleague can offer is a clear, loving no.
I totally agree. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder that scales this whole concept up.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about this. If boundaries aren't walls, but rather clear, honest signposts of our actual human capacity, what happens when an entire team starts putting up these signposts? We almost always think of boundaries as individualistic, me protecting myself.
Right.
But if everyone on a team, from the leadership all the way down, becomes ruthlessly honest about their capacity, does that collective vulnerability actually eliminate the root cause of burnout? Does it create this invincible team culture where silent resentment literally cannot survive? It is something to seriously chew on during your next team meeting.
Man, it changes the entire landscape. Suddenly, instead of a team where everyone is silently drowning and pretending they are fine, you have an accurate map of where everyone actually stands.
Exactly.
So the next time you feel that red warning light going off in the pit of your stomach, don't just reach for the escape hatch of an easy yes. Give them the kindest thing you possibly can, the truth. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Catch you next time.